Okay, we're going to get started. So first we have Leah Foley, the United States Attorney for the District of Massachusetts. She'll be joined by the FBI's Assistant Special in Charge of the FBI Boston Division, James Crowley. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, Office of Inspector General, Office of Investigations for the Northeast Region, Special Agent in Charge, Sharmika Parker, will also be joining us. Commissioner Cox is unavailable. He has a scheduling conflict, but those will be the folks on the podium. And Assistant U.S. Attorney Philip Mallard. But if you guys have questions after, I'll go through all that with you.
Good afternoon. Today we are announcing federal charges against two men, Antonio Bonner and Saul Elisme, for large-scale SNAP benefit trafficking, a scheme that turned a program designed to feed families into a multi-million-dollar criminal enterprise. SNAP benefits are also known as food stamps. The defendants are charged with one count of food stamp fraud. As alleged in the charging documents, these men abused one of the government's most critical safety net programs for their own financial gain. This is taxpayer money meant to keep people from going hungry. These defendants decided to take it for themselves. These defendants exchanged SNAP benefits for cash, which they pocketed. Bonner, a naturalized U.S. citizen from Haiti, owned the Jesuela Variety Store. Elisme, a lawful permanent resident also from Haiti, owned the Saul Mache Mixe store. These two businesses were co-located within a single storefront in Boston. To be certain, these were not supermarkets. They were not full-service groceries. It would be a huge stretch to even call them convenience stores. In fact, the only thing convenient about these stores was how easy it was to commit SNAP benefit fraud. To put this in perspective, the Jesuela Variety Store is less than 150 square feet in size, smaller than some bathrooms. The Saul Mache Mixe store was approximately 500 square feet in space. By contrast, a supermarket can be 20,000 to 60,000 square feet in size, have a dozen or more registers, and employ numerous employees. Both the Jesuela Variety and Saul Mache Mixe stores had one register, no carriages, no hand baskets, and very little food for sale. One legitimate supermarket in the same area as these stores redeems approximately $80,000 in SNAP benefits per month. Over the last 20 months, the Jesuela Variety Store was redeeming between 3 and 6 times that amount monthly, with nowhere near the space, inventory, customers, or infrastructure to support it. The Saul Mache Mixe store redeemed over $120,000 in SNAP benefits in the last 6 months. Simply put, there is no plausible way SNAP eligible food could have been purchased from these stores for this long. Yet, these two stores are alleged to have illicitly trafficked nearly $7 million in SNAP benefits. The fraud was shocking and glaring. Investigators found that both stores had exceptionally large and highly anomalous SNAP redemption volumes, far beyond what is remotely possible for businesses of their size, type, and location. Since March of 2024, the Jesuela Variety Store had monthly SNAP redemptions that consistently exceeded $100,000. In the previous 20 months, the monthly SNAP redemptions were between $200,000 and $300,000 a month. In one of those months, the redemptions exceeded $500,000. Investigators' suspicions of fraudulent activity were confirmed on the ground. During the course of this investigation, undercover officers used EBT cards to traffic SNAP benefits for cash at both the Jesuela Variety Store and the Saul Mache Mixe store. The defendants themselves were working the cash registers. and both exchanged SNAP benefits for cash with the undercover officers. Observations made by the undercovers showed that it was just as easy for anyone with an EBT card to walk into either store and convert hundreds of dollars in SNAP benefits into cash, all tax-free. The defendants even sold liquor in exchange for SNAP benefits, an outright violation of federal law. And perhaps most disturbing, both stores sold donated food products known as Manna Packs. These are meals manufactured by the nonprofit Feed My Starving Children, which are paid for entirely by charitable donations and are intended to be shipped directly to food insecure children overseas, including children in Haiti. These products are not for sale anywhere. Yet Bonner and Elise May were selling them in their stores for nearly $10 a pack, profiting from food literally intended for starving children in disaster zones. The investigation also uncovered extensive financial manipulations. Because the stores had little legitimate inventory and almost no lawful income, the defendants relied almost entirely on USDA-funded SNAP redemptions. To conceal their fraud, they used numerous bank accounts to transfer the SNAP benefits around between the accounts they controlled to create the illusion of a legitimate business activity. They also funded certificates of deposits and hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash withdrawals to keep enough cash on hand to pay out their customers. What were missing from the financial records were the things you would expect in any real grocery store, such as charges for wholesale invoices or large purchases for food inventory. Instead, the accounts reflected round-trip transactions, cash movements, and internal transfers to launder the SNAP proceeds. This case exposes a serious breakdown in oversight. Bonner's greed and fraud had no limits. Despite redeeming millions in SNAP benefits through his store, Bonner fraudulently obtained his own EBT card. The court documents indicate that between 2022 and the present, he cashed himself out for over $10,000 in SNAP benefits. In 2025, all of those redemptions were through the Jesuela Variety Store. It appears that the Massachusetts Department of Transitional Assistance conducted virtually no diligence when reviewing his application. It failed to compare Bonner's food stamp application against any record showing that he owned a business or that his store was already receiving millions of dollars of SNAP proceeds, or that he had hundreds of thousands of dollars moving through numerous bank accounts, or that he was married and living with his wife. Failures such as these allowed fraud and illegal conduct to grow unchecked for year on end. The court documents show that thousands of transactions have been taking place for years in large dollar amounts at stores that were not even large enough to store a fraction of the food necessary to justify these dollar amounts. And the numbers speak for themselves. $50,000 a month of fraud rapidly turned into $100,000 a month, then $200,000 a month, and at one point reached $500,000 of fraud in 1 month. Let me be clear, SNAP is the largest food assistance program in this country. It exists to feed families, not to bankroll criminals. This wasn't a paperwork error. It wasn't sloppy bookkeeping. It was a deliberate scheme to sustain. A supermarket can be 20,000 to 60,000 square feet in size. This is not right. Their storefronts were not even large enough to support a legitimate food pantry. When someone turns the equivalent of that poorly stocked inventory into a cash exchange turnstile for federal benefits, they are stealing from every taxpayer and from every family that legitimately relies on this program. Claims that existing systems are sufficient to catch SNAP fraud are simply not borne out by the evidence collected in this single investigation. On December 15th, the AP ran a story titled, "Trump Administration Focuses on SNAP Fraud," and detailing that the administration is claiming that the government's biggest food aid program is riddled with fraud. The article stated that there was, quote, little publicly available data, unquote, showing the extent of the alleged SNAP fraud, and that others who, quote, study the program were skeptical about the scale of the fraud. I would like to direct those experts to the evidence documented in today's criminal complaint. Almost $7 million in fraud allegedly committed by 2 individuals. This was not a sophisticated fraud scheme, and it didn't have to be because the lack of oversight was all that was needed to allow it to happen. This alleged fraud happened here in Massachusetts under the current system. It only involved 2 individuals, and it resulted in millions of dollars in losses. This investigation is just the start. This office will continue to work with federal partners to identify, investigate, and prosecute SNAP trafficking, no matter how long it's been going on or how much money is involved. The Trump administration has made it clear that it will not tolerate SNAP benefit fraud, and it will criminally prosecute those who are engaging in the alleged fraud that was exposed in today's criminal complaint. The administration has requested assistance from all states, including the Commonwealth, that receive federal SNAP funding to provide data on SNAP recipients to identify fraud. Some states have complied with that request, others have not. Monday's AP article mentioned that Democratic-led states, including Massachusetts, refused to turn over to the USDA data on its SNAP recipients, arguing that doing so would violate recipients' privacy, and claiming that the states already have systems in place for wrongdoing. Really? There is no privacy right that protects your fraudulent criminal behavior. Public assistance programs are a lifeline. We will not allow them to be treated as a criminal revenue stream. I urge all states to join in the fight to make sure these programs are protected and that the criminals who steal from them are prosecuted. Thank you, and I will now turn it over to Assistant Special Agent in Charge, James Crowley with the FBI.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, Assistant Special Agent in Charge James Crowley with the FBI Boston office. Earlier today, FBI Boston assisted our partners at the USDA, Office of Inspector General, and the Boston Police in arresting 2 convenience store owners in Mattapan, which is in Boston, who are accused of using the stores as a front for a massive food fraud scam. These 2 men came into our country and allegedly defrauded a vital federal assistance program that millions of Americans rely on to feed their families out of millions of dollars. The photos located in today's complaint reveal that their businesses have very little inventory. In fact, they did not have sufficient inventory to support the number and value of the transactions that they were logging each day. In addition, the owner of Jazula Variety Store also fraudulently applied for SNAP benefits for himself back in 2022 and has been collecting these benefits ever since. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program exists to help families put food on the table, not to line the pockets of criminals. When fraud on this scale occurs, it drains limited resources, undermines public confidence in a program that millions rely on every day, and it makes it harder for honest families and small business owners to get the help they need. Every dollar stolen, taken away from a child, a senior, or a working family who is struggling to make ends meet. It is also an affront to the legitimate business owners who play by the rules and serve the communities with integrity. Today's arrest should send a clear message: abusing public assistance programs for personal gain will not be tolerated. Protecting taxpayer dollars, safeguarding vital assistance programs is essential. I also want to thank the U.S. Attorney Leah Foley for her team in this case, as well as our partners with the USDA, Office of Inspector General, and the Boston Police, and also the FBI agents, analysts, and forensic accountants who all worked this investigation. As a result of their hard work, this alleged criminal operation was dismantled, its proceeds seized, and those responsible were brought to justice. Thank you.
I just wonder if you could speak to the challenges of actually understanding the scope of any fraud that might be occurring within the SNAP benefit program.
So based on the preliminary data that we have collected, we believe that the fraud is widespread. This was a very targeted investigation, and it is just getting started. We are planning to continue to investigate other stores and businesses where the anomalous volumes of EBT transactions that are happening on a daily and monthly basis is completely untethered from the realities of what those stores legitimately could ever possibly redeem in a month. But without the state's cooperation across the country, it is very difficult to present to you the data that shows fraudulent schemes like this.
To what extent has the state of Massachusetts cooperated with this investigation, and how much fraud you estimate is potentially happening right now, like in the state alone?
This investigation was solely run by the federal, by the FBI, by the USDA, and there was assistance from the Boston Police Department. Thank you.